Hey everybody, welcome back to the Bumpkin News. Bumpkin in Chief here with you. Today is Saturday, January the 7th, 2011. And as usual, we're a little bit irate about the federal government and the perversion of our Constitution. And today we want to look at the couple thoughts, how you can tell that you're dealing with a liberal and the other Constitution. You can't get a liberal, it's very difficult to get a liberal to admit that law breaking is occurring. They uphold lawlessness, anything to deny the actual freedom that the Constitution gives us for more government control. You get in a conversation with a liberal. I had one the other day, and being a conservative, I believe in the Constitution. I think that the framers of the Constitution were men extremely wise and understanding of humanity and of government and systems of government and of history. And I will admit to you that, and here's how the conversation went. You got to kind of, if you're interested in this subject, I'm sure it'll be fascinating to you. You got to kind of follow me on this. I told them that the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, was unconstitutional. I'm a conservative, but I like to tell the truth, and I like to call it just exactly the way it is. The FAA, in my opinion, is unconstitutional because it's not something that was enumerated in the Constitution, and therefore that's right is reserved to the states, that power is reserved to the states, and the FAA is unconstitutional. Now, do I believe that it should be abolished? No, absolutely not. I think anybody that's reasonable understands that we need oversight of the nation's airways. It would absolutely be chaotic if we did not have one central controlling authority over the nation's airways. If anybody brought it to a lawsuit and it came before the Supreme Court, if I was on the Supreme Court, I would recommend that to my fellow justices that we ignore it, that we don't hear it. You know, that is an option that they have. They don't have to listen to every case, because I think good sense, reason would dictate that even though it's unconstitutional, it's serving a very good purpose, and that the Constitution should be amended to legalize this, put it in black and white, what is an actual reality, so to speak, because you know where the law comes from. It comes from the people. If the people, and this happened several years ago, the nation went into law effect. The law went into effect that I think in the Nixon administration, that speed limits on nation's highways would be 55, and the majority of the citizens in this country didn't drive 55. We wanted to go 70, so everybody went 70. What are you going to do? Put the arrest the whole nation? You're going to fine everybody? That ain't happening. So therefore you have to go with, to a certain degree, in certain cases you have to go with public sentiment, public opinion, public value to define the law. You might call it common law. And so that happened in that case. Well, back to the FAA and the Constitution. And I told them that in my opinion, even though I'm a conservative, I believe that the FAA was unconstitutional, but that no one should file a suit against it to try to abolish the FAA or that the Supreme Court should hear it, but that the Constitution should be amended if we wanted to cross every T and dot every I to make it everything just perfect. And you know what? I could not get them to admit that the FAA was unconstitutional. It's funny, isn't it? But you got to know the mind of a liberal. You got to know how they work. You see, I'm a conservative. There's plenty of agencies, and there's plenty of bureaucracies, there's plenty of things in the federal government that are unconstitutional, and I admit it. But if a liberal would admit that the FAA was unconstitutional, then they would have to admit that there are other agencies and entities in the federal government that are unconstitutional. And they're not going to do that because they love big government, they love big government control. If they admitted that the FAA was unconstitutional, then they would have to admit that the Department of Education was unconstitutional and all kinds of other things were unconstitutional, that they aren't enumerated in the Constitution. They know you're dealing with a liberal. Another thing is there's two constitutions going on out here, or at least two, maybe more. There's the one that we have in Constitutional Hall, the one the founders have left us, and then there's the Constitution that's in the mind of someone like Barack Obama. He's already on record saying the Constitution is flawed. And how does this work? Well, you hear the liberals, they talk about a living and breathing Constitution. Now, what that means in liberal terms is the Constitution means whatever we say that it means. We don't need court. We don't need any kind of legal clarification, although we will put up some kind of legal mumbo-jumbo to try to justify our position. But because the U.S. Constitution is this, quote, living, breathing, unquote, a document, it pretty much means whatever comes in our head that it means. Well, here's the thing about it. And you can't get liberals to admit this either. The Constitution is self-contained. In other words, if times evolve and we are in a modern age now, we have reached a more modern age than when it was first written. The Constitution has its own process by which it can be updated, and that's called the amendment process. And that's where the upgrade comes in. It's not by what somebody says it means or thinks it means or what they want it to mean, and then they start just doing anything they want and saying, well, that's okay because the Constitution is evolving. Yeah, it's evolving in my mind. No, there's an amendment process that we have to go through to upgrade the Constitution. But that's not what the liberal wants to do. The liberal says, well, it's too important. We have to do it right now. We can't wait. We can't go with the constitutional process. Congress not going to act. I'm going to have to bypass Congress. I'm going to have to act on my own. In other words, 1/3 of the government is going to have to do the job of the entire government, and that's not constitutional. That's when you're dealing with a liberal. Liberal, they don't want to go by the rules. They don't want to obey the law. They want to do what they want to do, not support freedom, which is embodied in the Constitution, but they've got their own way to do it. And it's hard to get them to admit this. You know, it's an amazing thing. The president, the current president, Mr. Obama, is on record saying the Constitution is flawed. And you look at the Constitution itself, they say that the Commerce Clause gives the federal government almost unlimited powers, and the general welfare clause gives the federal government almost unlimited powers. You can put anything you want in there. It's for the general welfare of the country, for people not to be fat, not to be obese, and so therefore the people are not going to be able to eat anything but vegetables. As a matter of fact, the people don't need to eat anything except what I say they can eat. Now that's the way we'll get this thing under control. General welfare. Well, it's funny that the framers of the Constitution were so amateurish that they put one clause in the Constitution and they contradicted it with another amendment, with the 10th Amendment. It's kind of funny. These couple of other parts of the Constitution grant the federal government unlimited power, and the 10th Amendment constrains the federal government. So there's a conflict right there. Now, you know where the conflict is? The conflict is in Mr. Obama and the mind of the left. That's where the conflict is. And it's in conflict with the principles embodied in our Constitution. While we're on that subject of obesity, you know, if you want not to be obese, I can tell you how you can do it, and that's contract me to get you slim down. I would do it. You could submit yourself to my regimen, my program, and this is entirely voluntary. This is what freedom is all about. Hey, you don't want to do that? That's fine. You don't have to. But if you want to, you can come to me, and I will put you on a regimen. What I'll do, I'll construct some rooms that maybe are similar to jail cells that you can't get out, and you sign a waiver that you want to be in this area, kind of like being in a hospital or being in a rubber room or something like that. You know, you commit yourself to this care, to my care for like 6 months. I'll put you in there, and we'll have some dietitians serve you up rabbit food. You know, you're going to get some plenty of celery, which is extremely nutritious. You're going to get carrots. You're going to get some sprouts. You're going to get everything that's good for you and that's not fattening. You're going to get that. There's going to be an exercise machine there that to generate electricity to watch TV or listen to the radio or the news or the internet or whatever, your lights, that you have to pedal this machine to generate your own electricity. And we'll get you slimmed down that way. But now, like I said, this is freedom. On the other hand, hey, if you want to go down to the store and pig out, hey, get Cheetos, get Doritos, get milkshakes, you know, whatever you want to get, that's fine with me. Except, don't try to get it out of my pocket. Don't come and get the money out of my pocket to finance your abuse of your own self. You know, if you want to jump off a cliff, hey, I'm going to tell you, hey, don't do it. This is not the way to do this. But if you're bound and determined to do it, and every time I turn around, there you go for the cliff again, hey, I can't stand there and babysit you all day, and you go off. That's your choice to do that. It doesn't have anything to do with me. You do whatever you want to do, but remember, you got to pay the bill for it. So, leave you those thoughts, digest all that, let me know what you think.